Alrighty. Romans 8:18-30. So starting off, Romans 18. I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. And thinking about this, I want you guys to think about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is extremely expensive today, and everyone wished they bought Bitcoin back then. Just think about that person who thought about buying Bitcoin. I hear people say it all the time. Like, man, I should have bought like $5 worth of Bitcoin. I'd be so rich right now. It sucks to think about how you could have offered so little to gain so much in the future. And a previous verse is kind of the epitome of Christianity. As much, obviously suffering is big and it hurts. It's a big thing in your life, but obviously you wish you could offer that up to somebody to take, and you can't. And in return, you're gonna get something even better. You're gonna get a loving father. You're gonna be able to fulfill his promises. You have an obligation. You'll be able to live peace and freely, like we saw in the previous chapter. Next verse says, for the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. And I want you guys to think of a surprise birthday party. Kind of that verse is telling you that there are people waiting for you at the end. And I don't know how you guys feel if you ever walked into the classroom and everyone's like, yo, what's up, it feels really good. But just know that there is someone waiting for you, and there may be struggles as a believer, but someone at the other end is waiting for you. And it's the creator of the universe. It's God, Jesus, our Father. He's waiting for you. And so verse 20 says, for the creation was subjected to frustration, not by its own choice, but by the will of the one who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself will be liberated from its bondage to decay and brought into the freedom and glory of the children of God. And I want you guys to think of, if there was ever a time you called 911, hopefully it wasn't to play a prank or wasn't an accident, but if you ever called 911 for real, you know that it was during a time where you needed help, and it was something out of your control. And as believers, we need to get to that point where we can tell ourselves we need help. Know that you're powerless, not in the most overcoming circumstances, but pretty much any circumstance. Rely on the Lord. You don't need to battle these battles on your own. You have a quick phone call. He's on your quick dial, on your favorites list. As we continue verse 22, we know that the whole creation has been groaning as the pains of childbirth right up to the present time. Not only so, but we ourselves who have the first fruits. If you don't know, first fruits pretty much back then means the first harvest, when the farmers would get like food. The first of that harvest would be called the first fruits. So who have the first fruits of the Spirit, groan inwardly as we wait eagerly for our adoption to sonship, the redemption of our bodies. I like to think about roller coasters. I don't like roller coasters, but I can see why people like it. When you go to Six Flags, go to Knott's Berry Farm, you go to Disneyland, Disney World, all the best rides have these huge lines. No one likes waiting in lines. I certainly don't. Waiting sucks. But, people are in line because they're waiting in hope of something amazing, awesome. And, as believers, we are technically waiting in line. We're waiting in line for that promise that God has for us, that we would be with Him in heaven one day. And so we're all eagerly waiting. As we continue, verse 24 says, for in this hope we were saved, but hope that is seen is no hope at all. Who hopes for what they already have? But if we hope for what we do not yet have, we wait for it patiently. I want you to think about kind of a group of people. The last time I waited for a huge roller coaster, I was in Texas, Austin. There was a huge water roller coaster, but you can just wait patiently in line and wait for your turn, or you can make an attempt to do something in line. And that's what we did. As a group, we played games, try to pass the time, interact with one another, and kind of as believers, we're all in the same place. We're all waiting in line together, and we're not called to just stand and wait in line. We have to, we see something amazing and awesome. We should share with others so they also get in line with us, in hopes that we can, bond as brothers and sisters, and hopefully one day be together with our Father in heaven. As I continue, verse 26, in the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit Himself intercedes for us through the wordless groans, and He who searches our hearts knows the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for God's people in accordance with the will of God. When I read this, I thought of kind of a child and an adult. If you ever seen, the biggest thing is a little kid when he's walking by himself, a lot of times he'll grab onto the hand of the adult to kind of guide him, or just to feel safe. And for us, that's our Father. That's God, Jesus. And, you may not know what to do sometime. It's the same idea of being able to recognize that you're weak, you're helpless, and you need that guidance, you need that help, and you need help living according to the Spirit. And so don't be afraid to grab on and, be guided by the Spirit. It may be hard sometimes, you don't know where to go, but just trust in the Lord and that He has what's best for you. Verse 28, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. When I read this, I thought about Squidward looking over SpongeBob and Patrick, that meme, but in a different way. I thought of, you feel like sometimes you're alone and you're going through something by yourself. Obviously, there's always someone else that can share your pain, that you can walk with, just like as SpongeBob's walking with Patrick. But there's also somebody looking over you who's always has the best interest for you. And he just, as much as he wants to, do things for you, he's just watching over, making sure you're okay. And I think that's the idea that I need to have for God, is knowing that, He's watching over me and that He has the best interest for me. Verse 29, for those God foreknew, He also predestined to be conformed to the image of His Son, that He might be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. When I think of this, being the firstborn among brothers and sisters, it's when you first realize you get a phone call and you have amazing news to share, but no one else follows what you follow. And you're kind of by yourself in whatever circumstances you're in. For me, I'm in North Dakota playing volleyball, and I'm in a special area. Technically, I am the firstborn amongst my group, as I believe, as I'm the only believer in the group, or at least aesthetically practicing believer, and I have an opportunity to share with the people around me. Understand that you are placed in whatever situation you are, you're unique, and your uniqueness is that you have this hope, this hope, you put your trust in God, and you can share it with those around you. And then finally, verse 30, and those He predestined, He also called; those He called, He also justified; those He justified, He also glorified. When I thought of this, think about the NBA draft, and obviously, if you're watching this, you're probably not an NBA player who was drafted first pick, but if you've ever been picked first, you know how amazing that feels to know, like, oh man, I was the first choice. And then kind of as believers, you got to understand that we were chosen. We were chosen. Like, God chose us. And so live freely knowing that you were chosen to, hopefully enter His kingdom one day, and that He chose you. And so to conclude this, I want to talk about a story to kind of help myself and hopefully whoever's listening to visualize what I learned. Think about someone struggling with addiction, with drugs or whatever. This person, let's call him Rick, eventually found himself rock bottom, and he realized he needed help. So he called a local hospital for help, and they said, they said, we can help you, but you need to follow my directions. You need to listen to what I have to say, and I will guide you. And the person over the phone is telling you, once you are able to get over this, I have this amazing place that you can come to, but you have to buy a ticket. And this ticket is expensive. It costs a lot of money, but the person over the phone, let's name him John. John tells him that this is an amazing place, so you're willing to put up the price of the ticket, however it may be, for in hopes of something even better. So you book your flight, you buy the ticket, and you realize that all the flights are delayed, and you can't fly out tomorrow. The next closest flight is who knows when. They'll give you a call when your flight is. And so now you just got to wait. And it sucks because you've already bought the ticket, you're ready to go, but you can't go yet. So instead of just waiting, Rick decides to reach out to people in his community, other people that might be struggling with the same drugs or some type of drugs, and so that they find the same help, that they get to the point that they know they're helpless and they need help. And once he found a group of people, hopefully they booked their tickets to this amazing place and seek help. And that's the group of people, hopefully. And then one day, Rick eventually does get onto the flight, and he gets to the destination, and there are just a group of people waiting for him right at the entrance, ready to greet him, ready to accept him, and ready to be part of his family. And this story that I just told is kind of what I learned in Romans. If you think about Rick and his drug addiction, he needed to get to a point where he knew he needed help. And as believers, we have to understand that we need help and we got to seek it. And obviously, accessing that help, we have someone out there that will help us. John over the phone is pretty much Jesus and the Bible and what the obligations he has for us, and that we need to seek for it, accept it, and trust in it, and follow it, and live according to the Spirit, just as God calls us to. And the ticket is, kind of the sacrifice, that you need to put in order to receive the opportunity. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times as believers, we aren't willing to sacrifice the things of this world, maybe money, maybe pride, maybe lust, anything. And what the gold ticket resembles is that sacrifice is going to give you something way better. And it's that opportunity, is that being able to go to heaven and being with the Lord and living freely. And the delayed flights is pretty much when our flight, when we die and when we head to heaven and be with God. And so we don't know when that will happen. Waiting sucks, but we have to be patient. We don't have a fast pass of getting to heaven. And so creating the club is obviously, as you're waiting, you're making the most of your waiting time, and you're spreading the news to others, and hopefully that they make the decision to book their flight. Hopefully they make the decision to follow Christ and to live according to his Spirit. And obviously, hopefully at the end of the story is when he gets to the destination, there are people waiting for him. And this is obviously, hopefully one day as believers, we arrive to heaven, and pretty much knowing that, seeing that we've been waited for, there were a group of people waiting for us in heaven, which is, obviously, maybe, I don't know who'd be waiting for you, and knowing that I was chosen, you were chosen, so that when you get there that day, God is there waiting for you. And so my prayer for today is, I pray that I continually to submit my struggles to the Lord and live according to his Spirit. I also want to pray that the struggles I have now will be incomparable in heaven. What I mean that is that, Lord, I pray that I'm able to remind myself that the struggles I have today is, going to be nothing compared to the glory that I will experience when that day with you, Lord. I also pray that I will wait patiently and obediently. And what I mean by that is that, I know that I have my ticket booked, and I don't know when my flight is or when I will go to heaven. But until that time, I will be patiently living according to your spirit and hopefully spreading your gospel and news to others so that they may also experience what I'm experiencing and they can devote their lives to you. And I also want to pray that I'm reminded that I was chosen and He is waiting for me. And so, Lord, I pray that as the struggles come, obstacles come, and my life continues as a student away from home, that you remind me that you chose me for your kingdom, that I may enter your kingdom, and that there are people waiting for me when I enter. And I thank you so much again for this opportunity.